Hey, welcome to the Jaysquared Podcast. I'm Jasoma,
I'm J Rock.
and we
And
have
I'm
a
Guilford.
special we have a special guest today. We are introducing Guilford Adams. It's a very special episode today. Today we have the pleasure of meeting Guilford Adams. This man is an actor, musician, clown, and filmmaker. He's taking being a clown to the next level. You know, I mean, not I mean, I haven't even seen somebody do this level of clowning in my life. But he's performed at over 3,000 parties, and he's worked on TV shows like Modern Family, Glee, and is currently directing and producing a new exciting feature-length documentary called American Clown. So thank you for being with us today. How you feeling, man? How's the ambiance? How are you feeling?
I woke up today feeling a little funny, so I'll do the best I can trying to deliver on that.
Okay, we love to
Awesome.
hear
That's
it.
good to hear.
Love to hear it.
So I'll start us off. Kind of staying on that funny vibe.
Yeah.
Out of all the professions out there, why did you choose clowning?
I don't know if I chose clowning or if clowning chose me. I think
This guy.
most of us probably dealt with a lot of child trauma, which is
Mm.
why we're clowns. And we probably, I have divorced parents, and it wasn't the end of the world, but I probably tried to make my sisters laugh because of it. And so I kind of always felt like my place is the funny person to try to kind of add some levity into some other darkness. And I just kind of
Mm.
continued doing that. I said, it's often if people are like, if you're interested in clowning and you make poor grades and you don't do well in school, then this could be a career for you too. I ultimately though I was an okay student. I went to college and stuff, and but I just fell in love with. I just love the art of clowning and the act of clowning, and I love turning somebody's day a little bit brighter. And I
Yeah.
feel like sometimes I'm a little more successful at doing that with other people than I am with myself. And that's just the way it is. So I just enjoy it.
That's
Gotcha.
so awesome. And like kind of to, piggyback off of that point in itself, talking about, this being serious and like having those serious situations, given that clowns are taken so unserious, how do you make people who choose to enter the culture respect being a clown?
I mean, but within the clowning, I think there's like almost a declaration as a clown that you have to not eat in face, you can't smoke cigarettes or drink, or there's sort of like a respect oath that you have to take. It's almost like
Yep.
a clown's 10 commandments.
Mhm.
I don't know if I adhere to all of those, but I would say that I do think a clown you have to have the heart of a clown, to be, I think, a
Mm.
good clown. I'm not saying you can be whatever clown you want to be. We right now our airwaves are dominated by horror clowns, and they might or might not have a good heart. So I don't. I'm not saying that you have to have that, but I think for me, for a clown that I'm going to gravitate to and try to learn from, I think it all starts with just like being open and compassionate, to your audience.
Dang,
Nice.
that is really interesting because like I guess there is like a wrong way to clown, like in a sense, like since you have the 10 Commandments, like I never really thought about it like that. Like I thought
Yeah.
clowns were just like funny. You can like you could do whatever you want. Like you see people just falling on their face and stuff like that. But I guess there is like, hey, but there's rules to this.
Well, there's some integrity, and I think each clown will differ. I think that there's a part of us, one thing that I do kind of respect, and it's just part of the lore of coming up with a character. Clowning, commedia artists, anyone that works with the mask, there's a sort of respect that you give to the mask and to the makeup. Like I prefer kids not see me get made up. Like me putting
Yeah.
my makeup. If a kid's like, oh hey man, what's up? Like I prefer that not to happen. So I pick a
Oh,
different place to do that just because I like personally the illusion of there's like you don't see Superman putting on his jersey, right? Like
Yeah. His
or
yeah.
either
got
Clark Kent
you.
or
Hmm.
his Superman. Like you don't see him like, oh man, sorry, I'm just trying to get It's really hard to get the pants up over the undies, man. You'd be surprised, I mean, he probably wears a dance belt or something. So he's like, this is awkward. I'm wearing a dance belt right now. So I think that there's just for people, you're the viewing public. I think you want to keep some mystery there. That's just my
Yeah.
personal opinion. Not every clown agrees with it, but that's one of the things that I try to maintain because, by a kid's logic, you're a clown. In fact, many kids, if I do
Yeah.
a clown show, they'll be like, "Well, you're not a clown, you're human." And I might say, "Well, yeah, but aren't all humans clowns?" And they're like, "What?" I
Yeah.
mean, or
Oh,
aren't clowns
okay.
all humans? Aren't clowns human? And they're like, eh. But they're in their head that they don't. That's not. They're
It
not
doesn't
together.
click.
So, I don't know. I like to keep some of the mystery alive because I think that's where, in itself, and when clown is really working, there's just a little bit of magic involved, and I hate to ruin that over something as haphazard as like just not finding a good place to put on makeup.
Hmm. No, that's
That's
an awesome take on
great.
it.
That is
It's like
insane. Like,
an
never thought
alter
about it like that.
ego type of thing.
It is
Yeah.
very much an alter ego. I like to think of my
Yeah.
clown using that Superman analogy. I like once I'm in my clown uniform. This is me, my personal clown, Gilly. I've done most of the work, so it's like I'm in the clown uniform, and then it's like Superman just getting a cup of coffee or something, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm, I'm
Hmm.
gonna I'm gonna get up there and help that cat in a second. I gotta get some caffeine, man. It's I just like that's my clown in my head is once I've got a white face and I look like, oh my god, he's ready to make us laugh. I'm just kind of grabbing a cup of coffee. Like I'll be right there. I'll be right there. It's got to recharge a little bit. And that's kind of
That's
because I think there's
beautiful.
so much done with just the makeup and the attire. It takes people. You don't have to do too much after that. You really,
Hmm.
other than be present and that sort of stuff, you don't have to do too much.
That's awesome.
Wow.
I
That
like
is
the
really
idea
cool.
of just being present in the moment.
Yeah.
Like when you're trying to switch it over and you're like, all right, no, this I'm in the mood right now. I'm gonna just be Gilly right now.
Yeah, I think there's so much. We fight so hard as people to try to be in the moment, and we've got our phones, we have all these distractions. But there's something nice about doing a party and being with the child, or being with the kid, or even an adult, and then you're there. You're just there,
Yeah.
and you're engaging, and you're not. You're just like you're riffing off one another, and I think there's just some real beauty into that. And I don't think AI and all these things that are probably on the horizon will ever be able to replace that. That there's just a
Hmm.
one-on-one conversation you're having with somebody, and it can go anywhere. It can be crazy. And I
Yeah.
really love that as a clown.
Awesome.
I think that you do have a very strong point. I mean, the feeling that we often have is that we constantly disconnect because we're always looking for the next day or looking towards the next day to be able to live in
Hmm.
the moment instead of living in the fear, the agony, the pain that we have right now. I mean,
Yeah.
enduring that feels sometimes so loathsome, so we don't really want to carry that into our current life. But at the end of the day, that is what life is all about. So I think that being present is very important. I like that you take that approach to being a clown. That's
Yeah,
really
I think you're
cool.
forced. You're forced to be it. Like there's no, because you have a big sign on. It's like being a clown when you're walking. You have arrows pointing to you. Because if you're every
Hmm.
Hmm.
day, you can hide under things. You can put under glasses. You can put a hoodie up, and you can be like, I'm just not even. I don't want to engage with anybody. But as a clown, you're like, look at me, look at me. Like even if you don't,
Yeah.
we're gonna be like, hey,
Yeah.
honk, honk, hey. It's just you're automatically on, and so you just have to rise to that moment.
I love that.
Yeah. So speaking about living in the moment, um, can you explain to us, because we've never like done stand up comedy or dressed up as a clown, but can you explain to us how intoxicating it is to get that laugh from the audience or from the kids?
Yeah, I mean, for people that aren't performers, the laugh really, it's, and I think there's some scientific study that's gone into it. It just releases, it's almost like it releases a serotonin in you that
Mm,
makes you want more of that because it decreases the stakes. It's like this sort of final acceptance, and it probably stemmed from being very young. I just spent a couple days with my family too for my nephew's graduation, and it's like it's so nice. And
Congratulations.
yeah, thank
Yeah.
you, Levi Mason. You did a great job, and
Hey.
it's so nice to feel that, and it's like, and it kind of in a way, if that's something that you feel like you're good at, it makes you feel seen,
Mm.
and so that's, and then you want more of it, like anything else, it becomes very and so, but that's the biggest thing is it makes you just kind of feel, at least for me, it makes me feel seen and appreciated, and I
Yeah.
do like that, and and it's very possible that not everybody wants that all the time, and it's also, and I will say this as a clown and as someone that has the compulsion to do that, it's good to turn it off sometimes. There are
Mm.
plenty of people that know other clowns or comics that know other comics, and they just can't stop being funny, and it can be
Wow.
very aggravating
Oh.
for, because you're trying to be serious for a minute. Like, oh, I know you are. I'm trying to be serious. Like, just give me a second. Just like clock out, and just be
Yeah.
Yeah.
one on one with me, and I think so. Even as a clown, and I find I do that. They call it in the medical profession with this group Healthy Humor I've worked with. It's called a noses off moment, where you would be in a
Mm.
room. Medical clowning is one of the things I do, and they're a real serious sort of conversation, or maybe a child got a bad prognosis or something, and the parents want to talk to you a minute, and you could even take your nose off and have kind of a noses off moment,
Wow.
like, yeah, let's
That's
talk about
amazing.
this for a second, so, and I think that's essential as a performer, that that you've got to be able to get to that place too, that you can't be just on
Hmm.
autopilot where you can't have a real moment, or like a kid, like this has happened before, like, a kid has an accident or something, or you're doing a party, and then this little girl, you see something, she looks terrified, and like, oh, I think she had an accident, and you're not like, everybody get off the parachute. This kid just, you got to be very gentle about it, because this
Yeah.
could be
Yeah.
traumatic for them, and you got to
Yes.
find a way of like, okay, guys, let's walk over here. Let's go. We're gonna do the tunnel now, and then mom, I think she's had. You got to find a way to bridge out of that, not to create kind of a more heightened kind of like chaotic situation.
Hmm.
Wow. I never
It's a different
even
perspective. Hmm.
Yeah, I never even thought about that process of like looking out into the crowd and making sure everybody's okay. Cause I mean, it's more than a laugh at that point. You also have to make sure
Hmm.
people, because the fear of clowns are one of the top phobias. So like pretty much you want to make sure you're not creating that like by, you know, doing
On
something or being
accident. Yeah.
negligent. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
or exacerbating it. I mean, and the thing about clowns too, that you need an audience. Like,
Hmm.
there,
Hmm.
the clowns use the audience to feed off of. I mean, that's like, it's all performers do, but especially clowning, because you break what they call the fourth wall. That you're talking
Yeah.
directly to them. You're not doing, even if you're doing a bit and there's laughter,
Hmm.
you might be like, "Who's laughing at me?" Even if you're not picking them out or noticing, like, "Stop laughing." Usually, you would be catching people's
Hmm.
eyes. As an actor, you wouldn't do that. It'd just be like,
Yeah.
"Oh," like, because you've got a
Hmm.
fourth wall. But as a clown, you've broken that wall. There is no wall. You have
Hmm.
to engage with them. So I think there's something about it that just feels, the audience is its own character in whatever dilemma that the clown is having, and you don't see that in many other. I mean, stand up comedy. There's that too.
Yeah.
Music. There's that, but you don't interrupt the song. So there's a little
Yeah.
bit of that in between the banter, like, "Hey, play
Yeah.
Freebird." You'd have something like that,
Yeah.
other than that, you're kind of quiet for the songs and stuff. So there's
Yeah.
very few sort of stage professions where you're yelling at the audience and they're like, "I got you, I
Hmm.
got you." Let me close the
Hmm.
window on these neighbors. They're noisy. That you can kind of have fun. So it's very unique in that way.
It's incredible. Well, I mean, given that, we did talk a little bit about like, horror clowns and, that whole new stigma or new wave of clowning that's going on. What would you like, your documentary to change about the current culture shift that's going along with being a clown?
I don't think the doc professes to do away with the horror clowns. I just think we have in America, we have a rich clown history, And I think what we're doing right now, among many other things, is we're kind of throwing the baby out with the bathwater, and so we're letting the horror clowns kind of dominate in a way that we haven't seen before, and maybe it's a sign of the times. I mean, if you really look back at a lot of the clowns that we've had in the turn of the 20th century, we had Weary Willie, who was Emmett Kelly. He played like a hobo clown that most people would know, kind of a beard and
Hmm.
disheveled and kind of bad attire and things clipped with a safety pin. And like he was, but it was very much probably what people saw during the Great Depression. And so it was represented within the culture. And we get into the 50s and the 60s, and it's like kind of, we start going more towards a corporate clown, like the Bozos and the McDonald's and that sort of stuff. And now,
Yeah.
we've, and that's, of course, Ringling fits in the mix, the Lou Jacobs, who was in the 50s and stuff. And then we get into, the aughts and the 2000s and all this stuff. And it's like, we have this sort of scary horror clown. And then, but the backdrop is climate change. And it's like, all this politicized environment. So maybe that's how we feel, that's the representation of, it's the clown that we deserve, is, so to speak.
Mm.
Um, but I don't want it to be my biggest impetus doing this film is like, kids will come to me at parties and they'll say, "Aren't all clowns scary?" And I feel like, well, I'm not scary, right? Like, no,
Oh.
it's like, well, I don't think all clowns are scary. It's like, I understand what you mean. You're talking about Pennywise, right? Like, yeah, it's like, yeah, Pennywise is my cousin. He's gone Hollywood. He drives a Tesla. Scary. You know, and then I just try to bridge out of like I'm not saying that's not a real clown or that's not anything. And listen, I don't gain anything by him being close to me, really. But he's part of the family, whether I want to agree with it or not. It's like that's Uncle, Pennywise. I mean, um, I think there's room for more. And so I'm just trying with the doc and just to send just a little more positivity out there, saying, there's more than just that. I think us as we have a tendency in America and elsewhere, I'm sure, just to marginalize. Like if we were this
Mm.
easily could be, we could have killer plumbers out there, and everybody would be like, "Oh my God, plumbers are horrible. They kill people." And then plumbers out there be like, "Hey man, we unclog toilets too. Just FYI, we're not killing people not more than necessary.
Yeah.
So I think we need to just be a little bit more I don't know, aware of kind of what we're giving away by just allowing this horror trope to take over all the slots. And I just don't no, I don't want to go down like that and just be silent about it. I think back in the 80s, a lot of us were silent when they were like, "I hate mimes, can't stand mimes, they don't even talk."
Oh
And then we don't see a
yeah.
lot of mimes
Yeah, that's
anymore. It's like, you know
true.
what? I'm going to speak up now for clowns, because
Yeah.
I don't want that to be the case. I don't want that, I don't want to just get rid of them because society is like, 'cause I think there's, to take it one step further, I'm a little worried about killing messengers, about messengers that do a great job questioning power. I think it's a
Mm.
mistake to do that. I don't want to. I don't want to kill these songbirds of comedy because you know uh, because it's convenient, or because that's what the movies are telling me to do. Like, I think we should distrust sometimes what we see. I think it's okay to do that.
Man, that is so true.
I didn't even think about the mime comparison either.
Yeah, me
Listen, I
neither.
was
That's
I
funny.
silent.
like it.
Yeah.
Literally hit me.
Yeah.
It literally hit me.
I mean, Marcel, and I guess they've gotten out of vogue too. And we didn't like the fact they were silent and they're always finding their way out of a
Hmm.
box or whatever. But I think once things like that, I mean, and you'll still see them in commercials and all that sort of stuff, and
Yeah,
maybe
yeah.
that's just a part of American society where we want to. I think there's a very and we want to take away things that are good and wholesome. We're led to distrust them. Like there's never been a salacious, horrible story about Mr. Rogers, and I think by all accounts he was a wonderful, enlightened human that brought joy to millions and millions and millions of kids. But
Yeah.
our society, the one that we live in, we want to paint a bad picture for whatever reason, even though there's no reason to. Like, can't something just be good? Like, well, why does it have to be bad? Or I get it. I get that sometimes these beautiful things, there's an icky side to them, but not everything is like that. So we don't have to destroy everything. And I don't quite get it. Sometimes it's like that old, like, we just can't have anything good without messing it up. And I think at some point, clowns can be good. We just have to
Mhm.
remind ourselves that there is a good part of what they do. There's medical clowning that helps so many kids. I mean, just all
Mhm.
across the U.S. There's Clowns Without Borders. There's every kids party that I do on a backyard for a 5-year-old. I got 2 kids parties today. Like it's there's just a lot
That's
of
awesome.
goodness that can go out as well. And again, I'm not saying that horror clowns are like, no, they have their place. That's fine. People will still watch them, but we can have both, right? Can't we have both? Can't we have other clowns besides the horror clown? And that's all I'm trying to kind of preach, really.
I
Gotcha.
love that. I
There's so
love
much
that
passion
so much.
with how you answered
Ye-
that.
Yeah,
I love that.
I really do love this idea that it doesn't have to be. There's a duality. Like there's two sides to it. It doesn't have to, or multiple sides even. Like it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be about, oh, clowns are scary or clowns are funny. Like they can be both, and they could
Mhm.
represent multiple facets of what's going on in current culture. And I like also how you kind of walk back the history to the Great Depression. And I think clowning was is just a representation of where we are in society and something for us to laugh at or to laugh about. I mean, because there's not much else that we can do in the Great Depression. There wasn't really
Yeah, no.
much else. But when you see, the pins and like the, oh, life is terrible, it's like, that's hilarious. I love that.
I think it's unique that clowns exist in every culture. That I will go and
Mhm.
do parties, and I'll do parties in any neighborhood, whether it's Jewish or Muslim or a Christian, whatever. They know who I am. They know coming in what I'm going to do, what my skill set is. What they hey make me laugh. So I think it speaks volumes to the fact that we all have a need for this. Like, we all have a need to laugh at something and to poke fun of
Mhm.
ourselves, and clowns are that vehicle for that. And if we change those, and if we morph that image of this sort of just a human, or just that has foibles, that messes up, that can't quite get it, because the nose doesn't make the clown. I mean, sure, you can have
Yeah.
a nose and be a clown, but there's plenty of clowns out there. I could use a show as an example, and I've done this before, but we all know Seinfeld, right? Have we seen
Mm-hmm.
Seinfeld? Okay.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So if
Yeah.
I go through some of these people, you can tell me they're a clown, and I'll go through what I think is the biggest clown to kind of the smallest clown. Kramer. Is Kramer a clown?
Yeah, he's
I mean,
funny.
yeah. I mean, he like, given the description, I guess. But yeah, I see what. Okay, yeah, yeah. He's a
Yeah,
clown.
yeah. I see what
Kramer's
He's
a
you're
a
clown.
trying.
clown.
Yeah.
He's
Definitely
not
a clown.
tied to
Yeah.
anything. He's never going to change. He's always going to be the same person that he is.
Mhm.
He always gets into some weird mess, but
True.
he knows no bounds. Anything would make sense with Kramer. George, I consider George a clown as well. He's the same
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
He's so petty and minuscule. I would even say
Yes.
Elaine is a clown,
Yeah.
because she's the same way. The only one that's kind of not a clown, or that's what I would call the high status clown, is Jerry. Jerry Seinfeld is kind of like,
Mm.
because he could still do silly stuff, like, I just can't date her because she snores, or I just can't do this because it smells like, potpourri or whatever. I can't even talk to her because I cough every time. So it's like, it's still like a clown, but he's high status. And then we have the
Mhm.
lower status, which is like George and Elaine. And then we have the real low status, kind of the Zani type character, which is Kramer. And he's just like a buffoon, right? He's just like
Yeah.
off the rails. Anything can happen. Wherever
Yeah.
George and Elaine can take things, he'll take it one step further. And then it's like, oh, I don't even know what's going on. So I mean, that's we have clowns in our society that are not with noses and that we watch on.
Mhm.
Same thing with Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I mean, The Simpsons. I want to, they're all of
Yeah.
these. So
Oh
I
my god.
think we deal with clowns all the time. I think what we're doing, and maybe this is the direction that, and we talk about this in the documentary, is are we just objecting to the makeup? Is that what it is? Are we just
Mm.
not liking the
That's a
makeup anymore?
great
Mm.
point.
And
Bars.
That's a
is the
great
taste
point.
changed? And I think that you can have the makeup still and that not be a horror clown, because most horror clowns really are just, if you go to the store, they're even just latex masks. And it's like,
Yeah.
I know in the movie and Pennywise, they probably do some natural application, and same thing with Art the Terrifier, who we interview in
Yeah.
this documentary. But
Nice.
I don't know. So is it less makeup? Is it, and that could just be tastes. That could be like, how
Mm.
things move around, and how in the 80s we had big hair, and then we don't have any hair, and then now and now we have mullets again because mullets are cool. And
Yeah.
that could just be, it's just going to cycle back around. But for right now, people are like, it looks like a horror clown with that much makeup. So these are all all of these kind of fit into the sort of dilemma a little bit, and so with American Clown, what I do is I go and I talk to the clowns that I know, and Steve-O, who's in it, and John C.
Yeah.
Riley, and then Bill Irwin, who's just like this amazing clown who was in Popeye and was like Sesame Street, and he's like the North Star for a lot of clowns my generation, and David Howard Thornton, and the original Bozo, and then just like dozens of rank and file clowns over the years that I've known and that I've worked with, that I feel like are just captivating and have a lot to say about it. And David Arquette's in it as well. He does.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. Kind of going into how passionate you are about this and this whole documentary. Seeing that you've worked on so many other clown related projects like the Eric Andre show, clowning, and even Lucifer, what makes this one particularly special to you?
Well, I'm in this, I mean, I'm in the others too, but this is me. And so it's a little bit more, I'm in it sparingly. I really want to give the microphone to other clowns that I
Hmm.
talk to. It does kind of journey my story. I worked for a major corporation as a clown, that when they had a program that was like the field program, and I assisted Ronald in the field, and I just felt like everything was kind of crashing down at the same time. And, it worried me. And so I started to explore it. And then I tried to talk to other clowns, and it felt like my worries weren't unfounded, that we all felt like this. And I thought, like, well, we need to send out kind of, an SOS to each other, that, that we're aware, and that we need to find a way to add representation, and I think really the movie is just the first step forward to add more positive ambassadors to clowns that are here in
Yeah.
America. I don't want it to be just Pennywise and Terrifier. I have no problem, but I want them to be far to the left or far to the right, because there's a bunch of other clowns that do a bunch of awesome stuff. And we do have Puddles is in this as well. Puddles Pity Party. He does, or his manager Mike is in it for him, but he does a lot of great stuff. And I think, I've tried to talk to as many allies in the clowning community as I could,
Hmm.
that are really doing great stuff, in the hopes that people are like, oh yeah. And to remind people that the people that they love and that they've watched for years and supported, that like, not only are they lovers of clowns, but they also could be clowns themselves. I think to show the face behind it, behind the makeup. And I think for a lot of people, kids included and adults as well, since they're adults are just, old kids, that they see like, oh yeah, that's that person behind it. Oh, yeah, I love that person. I love that person. They can put anything on the bed. I don't care, And so I think that was, part of my impetus was like, I want to give it kind of a human touch.
That's awesome.
Gotcha.
Now,
Love
like
that.
the what we really want to do right now. So we have like we we want to kind of get into like a little speed game. So seeing that you did work with a lot of people, and like you were just saying, there are so many different names in this clowning game. We want to know, like a this or that type of situation, who would be a better clown. And we kind of worked in like people you've worked with before. So we kind of want to get your opinion on this. You down to play?
Okay, sure.
All right, for sure. So Jimmy Kimmel or James Corden?
Oof, a better clown. God, I don't. Well, that's a tough one right off the bat. I mean, I have to say that's a tough one.
Got
I
him.
just, it's hard to because I'm like, oh my god. I think only because there's a performer aspect to it, I would go with Corden. Not because just because I think he could
Okay.
make, there's an not that there's not that Jimmy's not. There's just something about Corden that I think pull it off.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's all right. Hey, this is the honest opinion.
Status. I have a lot of respect for him, but he's a little high status. Like he could be a high status clown.
Gotcha.
I think Jim Corden could go a little bit lower. That's what
I
Okay,
see what you're
okay.
saying. The standards aren't as high for. Okay, I see what you're
Mhm.
saying.
I think he could go a little lower. I mean, Corden's he's a strong performer. So I think I would say that there could be a little more depth and there could be a little more swing. But Kimmel's
Okay.
in his own right fantastic. I think he'd play the
Okay.
high. If I had to do the relationship, he would be the high status clown and Corden would be the low status clown.
Nice.
Okay,
All right.
all right.
Reese Witherspoon or Jennifer Aniston?
Ooh. I would say, and this is no offense to Jennifer Aniston, but I would say Reese is the bigger clown of the two.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay.
She's
Love
funny.
that.
She's funny. She's very engaging, and she's just very sweet, and she's very disarming. Jennifer Aniston, it's like they both are. Right?
I'm like,
stars.
oh.
They're both huge stars, but then
Mhm.
Reese will just kind of kind of jab you in the ribs a little bit, kind of. So
Yeah.
it's like
Okay.
oh, what's going on? Like you're Reese Witherspoon, But she just she'll stoop to your level. I'll say,
Okay.
That's all right. This one's
cool.
This one's a threefer. All right.
Okay.
All right. So Zach Braff, Donna Faison, or Ty Burrell. Which one do you think would be the best clown?
Oh, Ty Burrell. Ty Burrell.
Really, off the bat like that?
Okay.
Yeah.
Off rip.
I'm sure Zach Braff's great, and I just Ty Burrell is a clown. He's a clown. Everything he does, I mean, he's a clown.
Okay, so this last one, I need you to put your personal bias aside.
Okay.
Eric Andre or Steve-O?
Fuck, that's a tough one.
I told you it was gonna be a tough one. I told you.
We left the tough for last.
I'm gonna go with Steve-O. But not. I love Eric Andre. I've been a clown at his birthday party for like 5. The guy, he probably, if he sees me again and he hears this, he's gonna be really irritated. But Steve-O is. I mean, he's gone to clown school. Like he is. And so I can't give it to Eric because Steve-O's got so much more skin in the game. I just can't. Like Steve-O is legit. He's in the dock. He's done it. He's done the walk. No doubt about it.
I see what you're saying.
Well, Guilford, thank you so much for coming on. We
thanks so much
appreciate
for having me. It was a delight, and I love that game at the end. Thanks so much for talking. I really do appreciate it.
Of course. No, we're going to go ahead and let you plug in the documentary when it's coming out and all that. So go ahead. Floor is all yours.
Yeah, it's coming out the 23rd of June. It's going to be premiering. It's going to be Dances with Films, which is going to be in Hollywood. It's like the old the Grauman. It's kind of in that Grauman Chinese Theater complex. So if you're in LA,
nice.
They're on sale now. You can find us on any of our socials, American Clown Movie on Instagram. And you can just plug in there and stay tuned for developments. I mean, the hope is we go to a festival or two and we can find some sort of distribution for it. So that's the hope. There might be a road show in our future, but yeah, just find us on
Ooh,
Instagram or find us on AmericanClownMovie.com, and yeah, and just kind of follow us. We love that.
that's awesome. Thanks again for coming on. We appreciate you so much. We'd love to have you back, kind of talk a little bit more about music since we both enjoy music and we kind of figured out that you do some music too.
I do. I do.
Um, so hopefully in the future we could collaborate again. But thank you so much for coming on. We
Oh,
can't wait
thanks
to
so much
watch
for
it,
having me.
of
No, of
course.
course, of
I
course.
really
And
appreciate it.
again, guys,
Uh,
you guys go ahead, follow, like, and we're gonna have more of these like interviews and things like that. But we really appreciate this one for being, really just hit a really high mark for us. So we appreciate you guys. And this has been the J Square Podcast. Peace.
Peace.
Bye, everyone.